Hello and welcome. What if I told you that there's a 47% chance that you will not have your job in 20 years' time, either thanks to technology or automation? A lot of people are thinking about this, including the Indian IT services industry, because they could be victims, but they could also be beneficiaries of this if they were suitably prepared. I'm now joined by K Kurien, CEO of Wipro, who's going to tell us about what he's doing about this and how he's thinking ahead. TK, thank you very much for speaking with us.
There are some fundamental changes happening in the workforce, the workplace, and the technology that connects everything. Right? And how are you looking at this as a company or as an industry?
So the way we see it is that, for us, the opportunity, every opportunity comes in when there's a fork in the bend, right? When there's a fork in the bend, companies that have got momentum behind them typically don't take the fork. Companies that don't have momentum have to kind of leapfrog and jump into the fork. And we think for us, the challenge is going to be twofold. One is that we have a large, successful entity that is running down that path. For us, the challenge would be how do we create agility within the enterprise to take the fork? So in a sense, really what we are talking about is nearly two almost opposite, diametrically opposite companies that have to do this. And we think long term, to make that shift, we can't make that shift within our enterprise. It's too big for it. We have to probably make it through a few bets, through doing something organically which can jump the fork and really accelerate down the fork.
So
I think that's the game.
Acquisitions that you're making and so
could
on.
be acquisitions, could be organic. Organically also, we probably think we have to start a separate company for that to make sure that we take advantage of what's coming down the bend.
Can you illustrate that?
Simple. You look at cloud, what cloud is going to do to you. Fundamentally today with cloud, what's going to happen to you is that you're going to be in a position where you can charge for everything as a service. Now that is very different from the business model that we've been used to. We make money off the capex cycle, we make money off ambiguity, we make money off change. The whole technology industry makes money off change because every year new technology comes in, everybody invests in it, 3 years, 5 years later, that's junk, new one comes in. So there is this treadmill that you get onto of technology. Fundamentally with the cloud, what's going to happen is the technology is going to be behind. The process takes over. When the process takes over, the simplicity of the process is what is ultimately prime, which is the way it should be. But it requires change of mindset from the guys who run the other side of the business to make a transition into this side. So it's almost two different mindsets, if you may, that you have to contend with.
So you're also saying that the digital enterprise, as we understand it, is more than just an annual IT transformation.
It is far, far more than IT transformation. It's basically a transformation in the way business is done. So let me give you an example. The best example that I use within the company is this. Many years ago, today in the US, today we do this right across. We used to do travel where somebody used to phone up a help desk, book a ticket, and then the person travels, he'll collect all the bills, put it into an envelope, and then go and submit the bills. About 3 years ago, a couple of kids who work for us came up with this brilliant idea. They created a portal within, which we today use in the US. We can't use it in India because of statutory purposes, because they still want paper. Tax authorities. So what we did was we created a very simple tool whereby you could book your travel online. So if you want to go to New York and you're sitting in Boston and you have to be in New York by 5 o'clock, it'll tell you if you're going to be in Midtown, this is the time it'll take you from JFK or from LaGuardia back to Midtown. And they will give you flights based upon that. And it'll pick the cheapest flight and give it to you. You book your own flight. When you land up at the airport, it'll tell you the bay in which your Hertz car is sitting. So you go into your car, no human intervention, you drive. You go to the hotel, you check in, and your check-in is also electronic, no paper. And then what you do is that, assuming you go and have dinner, you scan the invoice with your phone. The phone tags the invoice based upon your geolocation to that particular place. So it knows you're in New York. So if you travel, say, to Las Vegas and you say you're going to New York, it'll catch you. Then what it'll do is that when you come back to Boston, it'll say, I see that you've closed your travel, you finished your travel. Do you want to settle your bill? If you say yes, you press the button, your travel is settled automatically. The cycle time for settlement for us used to be 9 to 12 days. That's come down to 1 hour.
In the US?
In the US. And just shows...
And you've obviously put a lot of people out of jobs.
So overall, if you look at it, the entire ecosystem used to be close to between 400 and 700 people.
Wow.
Right? That's now replaced by 7 people.
So this is a support system for you.
It's a support system for us. Now, assume this happening in the banking environment. Assume this is going to happen in the travel industry. Assume this is going to happen in the hotel industry. Think about how many people who sit in the middle, who are today doing handoff jobs, what's going to happen to them? So skills are going to kind of migrate to the broader business process which sits on top of the pyramid, while the bottom end is going to be hugely disintermediated. That's going to happen. And in our educational system, we don't support that, because our educational system even now is a production line based educational system. You get 90 in a subject, well, you get admission. You get 89, you don't. It's pass fail.
Yeah.
It's the production model of education. Now, fundamentally, what we need is we need people from different categories. We need people from liberal arts. We need people with computer science backgrounds. All these put together in a way whereby they can actually model the business process and model experience. That is where the value will migrate to.
But are you hiring such people?
Oh, absolutely. Today, some of our most successful people are psychologists with computer science backgrounds.
Okay.
We even have musicians with computer science backgrounds.
So the computer science is a necessity.
That's a necessity for R&D, not necessarily when it comes to execution.
Right. So let me ask you, so this was the illustration. So you're obviously imagining two kinds of enterprises. One is, of course, the challenges that you will face in the next year or so, and part of it may be to do with the digital enterprise. And there's something in the future which we all don't know about. The Economist talked about 47% of all jobs disappearing, or as we know them, in about 20 years. So what does that mean to you?
Simple. So if you look at the first, ultimately we serve customers. So for a customer, we must be able to manage today as well as give them a vision for tomorrow. It's critical. The second part of our business, the new business, is going to give them a vision for tomorrow. Yet there's enough money to be made in managing today. We don't want to let go of today, because that's what gives us the headspace to manage tomorrow. So we have to be in both the businesses. And the second thing about the whole IT game, the services game that we are in, is you give up real estate, it never comes back. So you have to hold on to real estate in every form or shape. And that's the other game that we are playing. So it's really a game on two fronts. Right. And you have to win both. That's a funny thing.
So what's the most daunting challenge, let's say, a customer of yours is posed now or this year?
So the biggest change today, customers, what happens is the C-suite has got a view of how the business is supposed to go. A large part of the middle management that sits in large enterprises do not necessarily buy into that vision. It's true for our customers, it's true for us, right? And getting that middle management to get a win for themselves is the biggest challenge that we face today. And that's a tough one. Because how do you go and tell a guy that, look, change is good for you, when you know pretty well that he knows pretty well that he may not have the job in the next 6 months? That's a tough story to tell. So there's a lot of reskilling which is required, especially in places like India, where you don't have a social structure which rewards failure and a support base that kind of keeps you above the poverty line. It's a tough one for people here.
And you've already tried to address this by saying that you're no longer going to necessarily promote seniority.
We are not going to promote seniority.
Yeah.
And that
used to be a pretty linear progression at once upon a time. In
And
every company, not just in IT.
Exactly. And why we're doing it, people don't quite understand why we're doing it. Within the company they do, but a lot of people don't get it. The reason is we're preparing these guys for the future. It's as simple as that. Because when you have a younger person coming in and taking a bigger job, then suddenly you look at yourself and say, am I relevant anymore? Or what should I do to be relevant? The first category may not make it. The second will. So there's hope out there for that group in the middle to actually make that big jump. We're not like the Valley where, if you're below 26, if you don't make $1 million, then you're pretty much gone.
Right. And it's a frightening period, but also I guess one that could be adapted to or adopted to. So, yeah, go ahead.
So you could look at it two ways. One is that you can be frozen in fear. The second is in every downside, there's an opportunity. Right? And we've kind of used that effectively to our benefit in the past. There's no reason why we can't do it in the future.
So last question, let me bring you back to the current. So how's the rest of the year looking, calendar?
Look, as far as the US is concerned, the economy is doing much better. And clearly my own sense is that whatever growth rates you're talking about, they will bust them. There's no question about it. Europe, on the other hand, is a little bit of an uncertainty. And the reason behind it is this. Right now, if you go to Europe, the buzz is positive. Right? Everybody's
they're out of recession, at least on paper.
So that's what everybody says, and that's what everybody believes. But the reality is this, the fundamentals haven't changed. Unemployment hasn't changed. Government regulation hasn't changed. So nothing has changed. So fundamentally, the only thing that's changed is sentiment.
But that's a big kicker.
Yeah, but the problem with sentiment is the sentiment is fickle. Sentiment is a terrific slave. It's a terrible master. It can kill you. So what happens with sentiment is that the minute the sentiment turns positive, the whole push in the political system is off. And if the push in the political system is off, chances are that they'll go back into the state they were in.
And that could well happen in our own country.
I think our country is
If we're not already going through something.
democracy is messy. The good thing about democracy is that you go through ups and downs, you relieve the pressures of growth or degrowth on a regular basis. But over a period of time, democracy in a way with freedom kind of gives you the opportunity to grow. So I'm optimistic about India, except that I think it'll take time for us to sort our own mess out. We need a crisis.
Okay. And you're saying, so US is looking good, Europe you're not sure as yet, and India
very-
is something that you think will sort out in a while.
India has to sort itself out. It's too big to fail. It's as simple as that. Too big for other countries to allow it to fail.
Right.
Because
No, but I mean really on business for you as a company or IT, the IT.
I would say it'll change because digitization that's happened in other parts of the world. Look at the level at which it's reached India. It's not even 1/100th of what it's there in other parts of the world. Across, it's there in the private sector, not certainly in the in the government. So that's a big opportunity. So from that perspective, I see real opportunity in India. When it'll happen, who knows? So you can't bet your house on India. So you've got to keep your bets and wait.
Right. TK, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.